My dear people, how are you? This is Dr. Venkat. I'm so very happy to be speaking with all of you. I heard from your teacher, Sala, that you all had a wonderful discussion after our initial lecture. Bravo, bravo. For today, my dear people, we are going to be meeting a very good friend of mine and sociopreneur, Mr. Meher. Mr. Meher is from the south of India. Did you know that I'm from the south of India as well? Huh? We are going to be looking at how him and his team are using engineering and engineering skills to address some of the pressing issues in the society in so many countries, irrespective of the developmental stage of the country, some of the marginalized communities, people who are in poverty, people who are, let us say, for example, transgender, they find it very difficult to access some of the governmental policies, some of the governmental help that are available to them, especially their access to justice. Now, if the people are finding it difficult to access these, what if engineering and the engineering skills can be used as a tool to solve this pressing social issue? Another interesting thing is that they have created this social space, this completely open access space, which is open 24 hours of the day, and it invites anyone, irrespective of their background, to come over. And if they have an idea that they want to convert it as a product, if they want to develop a software, if they have any small issue which requires a technical solution, they help them in building it for free. The reason it inspires me is because this space Tinker Hub provides opportunity for people who might not have had that opportunity unless and otherwise, who are unable to afford the technology, afford the software, the hardware that they need to explore their creativity. And the Tinker Hub does that. That is wonderful. Well, more than me just talking about it, let us talk with Meher, shall we? Meher, would you like to introduce yourself, my dear fellow?
I really like making. I really like playing with software, building something. I really find a joy when a small robot moves or a small website is made. So the question is like, how do you enable more people with that joy of tinkering, with that joy of building, or equip them with real life problem solving? So we wanted to do that. We were like that. And then we created this community called Tinker Hub. It's like a maker community. The model is like we create small learning communities inside universities, and then students will help each other in learning new things. For example, generative AI might not be part of the syllabus right now for most of the universities, but everyone want people who are having such kind of skills. Then how do such talents are created? Our experience is like in despite of the university wherever they are, there will be small number of kids who know how to play with such things. Most of the students might not. Then how do you create a small community, a safe space for each other to ask questions and then help others in learning? Every year we create such maybe 30 to 50 universities. We create such communities, and every year we work with 15 to 20,000 students. And some of the programs are like Woman Maker Celebration. How do you empower girls who are already into tech? Or Tinker Hack. How do you bring hackathons and technology making to more women? Or useless projects, which might sound very crazy, but it really triggered creativity in students. Like, how do you build something very crazy using your technology skills? So these are some of the activities that we do, and we have a hackerspace in Kochi. So we are from Kochi, which is like part of Kerala, India, and this is like imagine it's like a public, like a reading room or like a public library, but for hackers and makers, which is free, which is 24/7 open. You just walk in, you could use 3D printers, GPUs. You could basically make some robots or some apps, or whenever you get stuck, there will be community folks who might be willing to help you. So these are some of the activities we do, but essentially we there is a joy in building things. There's a joy in solving problems, and we wish more people have access to such joy and such capabilities and such powers.
This is very inspiring, Meher. Well done. Now, can you please let us know a bit more about this Tinker Hub that you have created and how it enables social justice within the community?
So I think in the broader work of what we do is like the first thing we try to do is like how do you make technology making equitable? How do you make sure that different kind of people are there in the room where big technology is actually being made? So some of their programs like Tinker Hack, which is essentially uh, might be one of the largest hackathons in the world for girls, is actually enable women to be makers, women to be engineers, women to be in that room where big technology is being built. So these are some of the activities we work. And so I think the core of what we do is like democratizing technology making or democratizing access to technology learning. So that is one of the things maybe at the core of what we do. And the space is like a public space. It's like a public property that anyone can actually walk in, learn technology, and we imagine that space as the intersection of tech and society. How do you leverage tech for justice? How do you leverage tech for social change? So we have worked with a bunch of organization, a bunch of activities, like how do you leverage AI in generative AI, especially in justice, or how do you fight fake news, or how do you how do you take control of your privacy, or how do you ensure that AI algorithms might not be doing a bias towards you? So it's like an intersection of tech and society if you are thinking about the space. But in broader sector, or broader thing, TinkerUp does is like maybe making technology learning accessible or equitable for everyone. And in a long run, on a best day, what we wanted is like many of our community members are going to solve real world problems leveraging technology. So some of them already started working with social organizations in different sizes and different format in order to solve some of the real pressing world problems.
Meher, you did mention about real world problems and using engineering as a tool to solve them. Can you please expand on that a little and also comment on how engineering can be used as a tool for creating social justice?
Both of us are from engineering background, and the way we see the world might not be the only way to look at the world. So I'm still curious about how the world work and how justice work and everything. So there will be a number of point of view. So something I really liked about the way we approach is, so I was having this conversation with a bunch of people who are working on how do you make justice more accessible to people. And something they liked about what we do is like, so we are more on the building side. We are more on the solving side than complaining about, or like maybe thinking different possible, like maybe different challenges on the way. Engineers might be having a tendency to go and solve it first and then think about like what happened there and what. So that is something I really liked about engineers, and then rest of things, maybe justice. And the other thing is like the way I looked at justice was very narrow. Like the only way I used to think about justice is through just codes. How do maybe police work, max, or just codes. But I think justice is much beyond that. In the sense like how do you enable a transgender person to get an ID card, which might not be a code case, but if only if that person is having an ID card, they might be able to get that kind of support they might be getting from government. Or how do you enable a farmer to avail a loan uh, when they speak only very native language, which is not very popular one? So I think the way we look at justice, at least the way I used to look at justice, is was in a very broad theme and is very confined to just courts and just lawyers and things like that. So I think there's a very broader way to look at injustice. Look at about justice. So in there, I have seen large number of possibilities. For example, in India, there is a tool called Jugalbandi. It leverages generative AI and ChatGPT, basically ChatGPT APIs, in order to translate. It's a project called Bashni by Government of India. It can actually translate local language. So India got maybe 26 like states, and like there's maybe very large number of hundreds of languages which are in use. So it's very hard to produce documents, produce information for people in need. But as but a country like India, like even if you take the minority language users, it might be in lakhs or maybe in millions. So, but it's very hard for any government to make every information available in all possible languages. So I think their technology plays a huge role. So beyond codes, beyond day-to-day understanding of justice, I think everyone have a like a should be having an opportunity to have a decent, dignified life. So then making sure all sort of services are accessible to them is a very big deal. So I think if you are a technology maker and if you are enabling a way for a person with ADHD to read a website easily or use an app easily, use a public service easily, that is social justice for me. There's a large number of people who are now identified with ADHD. It might be really hard for them to get through a long document. So I was having this conversation with a community member last month that he was suggesting if you convert the text into certain format, it would be so much easy for a ADHD person to have like read and understand it very quickly. So then, and the tech is like very negligible part in there. But if you enable and if you are not enabled, it make a huge difference in people's life. So so I think it's a very tiniest, maybe if you use 5-10 lines of code, you can create a small plugin that can translate any page to a sleep friendly page. But for me, that's a very big justice making activity. So you might be wondering, what is that actual issue with maybe farmers not able to access to a loan, or maybe a transgender person is not getting an ID card. So I think the Indian context might be totally different from the realities across, especially from the Europe. So the thing is like one thing we might need to acknowledge is like this is a very huge country, which with 140 million people staying. So it's like a very big deal in that sense, and then it's very diverse in that case as well. So most of the time there will be large number of government schemes, programs, support programs, different kind of things, which might be only accessible in maybe Hindi or in English. So assuming I am from Kerala, we speak a language called Malayalam, and then most of the farmers might not be knowing any other language other than Malayalam. So they won't be able to figure out, they won't be able to go through maybe thousands of government schemes, which might be some of them might be applicable for them. So it might be impossible for them to go through that many government orders and schemes and things which is in English or Hindi to understand which might be one that is applicable for them. So that is a kind of challenge out there. So then if you're thinking about transgender people, so they are a very minority, and most of some of the people from the community does sex worker in order to have a living. So so they are very afraid of police, and systems are not much supportive of them. So these are the times where they need help. So these are the times when tech is making things very handy, making a small WhatsApp bot, which from which you can send a small voice note explaining your case, explain your need, and then the bot using maybe use translate that, understand the context, and then figure out what is the kind of support this person might be needed and try to help. So this is a bit of a context. I hope it might be understandable, or like you might be able to get the context. Yeah.
These are really good examples you have given, Meher. You know what? I'm inspired to ask you for one more example in which how you and your team have used technology and engineering to solve an important social problem.
I want to give an example of how technology is actually leveraged to change lives of millions of people. So we have this community member, Gobi, who started one of the first campus community chapters in his college. So right now he works with an organization called People Plus AI. So they are essentially exploring how AI can be leveraged in social justice on creating a change in the society. So Gobi had a difficulty in hearing from his birth time, and it's very hard for him to understand what is actually people talking even after using a hearing aid. So he's tried to read lips so that he'll understand the context correctly. So even if in an online classroom, even if in an offline classroom, people with hearing difficulty, it's really hard for them to understand what is actually happening. So one of the solutions is like you can actually live translate. You can create like a maybe subtitles. So what happens during that is like if you are blindly creating a subtitle, it's really hard for this person to understand. Uh, and most of the time, so I was using this phrase in lags in another video. So for you, for the Finnish student, it might not be able to understand what you mean by lags. So there you might need little more maybe like explanation. So and at times there will be I might be talking a very big story, and then many of the details might not be needed. And even if you just look at in somewhere, it might be gone. Like if it's like a continuously give, giving a like a live transcription. So what we might need is like what they might need is like a small AI tool that actually translate or transcribe what is being spoken, but in a very simple language which is very easy to read, and give explanation whenever needed and maybe synthesize when not needed. So Gobi is working on that, and if it's happened, if it's like working properly, it's going. India got 63 million of people who are having some kind of hearing difficulties. So a small AI solution can actually create like the actual life difference in millions of people. And this was really possible even back then. So, but nobody had thought about that. And then I'm really hoping like how many other problems are out there which is yet to be solved and which is actually waiting somebody like you, some a maker like you, in order to solve. So yeah.
Wow, I'd like to wish you and your team all the very best for Gobi's project. Gobi, well done, my dear fellow. Mm. The final question, Meher, is this: what can the students do to create a change and to be a change maker?
Maybe easiest thing I urge you to do is like think about something that really bothers you or your grandmother at home, and then can you create a small solution to that? This is one thing. On a very broader note, there are a number of organization which might be in need of a small website, to tell the story, maybe a small HR management tool. So I might be like I'll share some of the website details with you, where we are actually creating alliance for how do you leverage open source in social justice. It's called Oasis or ICAM jobs, where we are listing opportunities in social sector for engineers. So if you can take a like a summer internship in one of the social organization, that could be a great start. So I think the world need many more makers, problem solvers to use your technology skills, which you might feel very silly. I know how to make a website. It's not a very big deal. I can use a Wix or I can code it myself. But there is like large number of like maybe millions of organization which might be looking for a tech volunteer like you. So I think it's a great first step to start either with from home or from a or with an organization. And then once you get into like actually solving problems, actually started working with organization, people who care for others, and then I think you will feel the power of like the kind of technology skills that you are having or the maker skills that you are having, and the abundance of social problems needed to be solved by some of us. So I think just get started from maybe from home, maybe from from a volunteer thing, and then there won't be any stopping. You will continue to see large number of issues that someday you realize maybe I am the one going to solve that. I won't wait for anyone else to do that. Yeah, I'm hopeful.
With such a hopeful message, let us finish this conversation. Thanks a lot, Meher, and good luck. Bravo. Bye.